Are you a small business or entrepreneur who's considered getting into government contracting, but it seems a little bit difficult, maybe not the most easiest or intuitive? Don't worry, I got you covered. Click the link in the description below and download your GovCon Startup Kit. It has all the tools and resources you need to get started in federal government contracting. I'll catch you in your inbox.
Everybody's in a different journey when it comes to small business and doing contract government work, but there's an opportunity to bite-size the education for these small businesses to allow them to not only meet them where they are, but move on to that next step. As small businesses, the approach is incorrect, or the small business gets discouraged because they're more of a micro small business and they have no way of getting their foot in the door. And so if you start creating content that's engaging and meeting them where they are, then that's a good win. Welcome back, Bold Move Besties. Today we are in the car again because guess what? We got stuff to do and I feel like talking, so here we go. I was talking and just thinking about how small business offices like the OSDBUs of various agencies can better engage the small business community. And obviously, because this is a platform of podcasts on video as well as audio, I said, let's explore this podcast idea. I know there are some OSDBU and small business advocacy offices that have a podcast-like situation on social, so on YouTube, on platforms like Spotify. But I think sometimes they miss the mark, and here's what I mean by that. Like, it's great to hear stories of other small businesses that can be inspiring for others. But what would be even better is talking about the strategies and the tactics that really go into it. And I don't mean explain all the end to end of what it means for a small business to do business with a particular agency, but rather, what are the bite-sized pieces? Maybe, if they cyclically see small businesses asking the same stupid questions at like a webinar of, hey, welcome to HHS, or welcome to the small business office of Department of Ed, or something like that. And they ask well, what do I need to do to get a contract? Or what do I need to do to be able to do business with HHS? And instead, they should actually be doing some homework. I think that that's an opportunity for the small business offices to promote that and to say that. So that would look like this. They can put out an episode that says, hey, oftentimes we get small businesses asking us a question of how can they do business with us? And they address, these are the ways that we can do it. When we go out as an agency, or our agency, we have certain action items or certain strategic objectives or goals that we need to meet for a given fiscal year. How about you go start and go read that? And you're not going to be so crass about it, but I'm saying it from a lens of, it's very frustrating to be on calls where you're understanding the strategic roadmap or objectives of the agency. And I'll say one of the agencies that does this really well is the FDA. They do a really good job at talking about, in the IT space at least, their strategic roadmap for a given fiscal year and how they plan on engaging small businesses. And it's very rare on those calls that I actually hear somebody ask a stupid question like, how can I start doing contracting work with you? And yes, that is actually a thing. I have seen people type in the chat those kind of questions. Instead, HHS approaches it with, hey, this is our strategic lens. We foresee, like for instance, cloud computing. We foresee that for this fiscal year, we're going to be focused on cloud computing and digital transformation. And this is how you as a small business can start to get into alignment with where we're going. And I think approaching it in that light and giving education in that space is much more beneficial than, this is a small business and this is how they have done business with us. No shade at, the fact that it does happen. Like I said, it's good to have that inspiration. It's good to be able to hear those kind of stories, but then it sometimes does a disservice because as a small business, you more so want the tactic of how to best approach it. Now, then it goes, okay, the next potential episode of this said podcast. And again, I would say for sure it should be a video podcast primarily. And then you can always splice that to be audio on an audio platform. You just pull the audio, but making it visual is more engaging. Making it visual and making short sound bites, sound clips as shorts on YouTube is also a thing, or Instagram for that matter, right? They could promote that on Reels as well. But start leveraging hashtags. I know people think hashtags are dead. They're really not. Like, especially in the government space, there are small businesses that are on social media, that know how to use social media, but it's hard to find sometimes those agencies that they could potentially do business with, because they just kind of post a one blurb thing. Like, you can get a millennial, a Gen Z, or someone who really knows social media to start using hashtags strategically. So hashtag GovCon, hashtag small business, hashtag, hell, you know what, hashtag and put in your NAICS code. That's actually probably really smart. Like, if you're having a topic and you're talking about something in a particular industry, rattle off those NAICS codes that make sense, and then start saying that, hey, we're trying to be more transparent in helping small businesses, and therefore we've started using hashtags via NAICS code. So hashtag 541512, hashtag 541611, hashtag 541613. You get the idea, but that's something where that's what you're talking about. So if a small business goes on like an Instagram or a LinkedIn or a YouTube, they can go do a hashtag search on their NAICS code and potentially find something relevant to them in that topic. I mean, same thing goes for if it's cloud computing. You can use the hashtag cloud computing, hashtag AWS, or whatever you want to use, but it's trying to, I believe, merge or make a bridge between what happens in the agency and who to reach out to versus how the small business is approaching. I feel like sometimes as small businesses, the approach is incorrect, or the small business gets discouraged because they're more of a micro small business and they have no way of getting their foot in the door. And so if you start creating content that's engaging and meeting them where they are, then that's a good win. Now, I get it. Teams are tight, budgets are tight. There's not always the ideation there. Then I would say to that, hire a consultant in a temporary capacity to say, hey, you know what? This is how you would go into, putting together your podcast. Like, make it to be where it's actionable at each piece, right? So you're saying something like, you're creating a podcast episode, you're talking about what an industry day is like and what it looks like for your particular agency, maybe what it looks like fiscal year to fiscal year, maybe what it looks like when the administration changes, what maybe some of the goals are on a 5-year strategic plan. Like, breaking those pieces down and using those type of hashtags are beneficial because we're looking for other ways besides sam.gov and FPDS and DSBS to be able to find the point of contact or point of contacts or agencies that make sense to do business with. Yes, we can look at the data. Yes, we can look at the numbers. Yes, we can look at the awards that have happened over the fiscal years. But again, it's how can we start taking those smaller steps to be able to help small businesses correctly do business with said agencies and meet those small business goals, right? Because that's ultimately the objective, meeting, if not exceeding, those small business goals across all agencies, right? Because SBA set those thresholds. Y'all know, y'all be having them conversations. So yeah, to me, I think podcasting is the way to go. I think it is definitive. I do feel like the audio side of podcasting is somewhat saturated, but it's still obviously a means that people do listen to podcasts, whether it's in the car, whether it's at home, whether it's on their phone. It's all there. You're just really meeting folks where they are. Now, that being stated, can we talk about y'all's backgrounds? So when you're doing podcasts, I get it. It's on like Teams or a Zoom and you're working on what you got. Great. I know the camera equipment that come with them laptops is low grade, and that's okay. It's what you procure. It is what it is. But I would like to submit for consideration using equipment and cameras that put a good light, like a good lighting. It might be maybe not a ring light, but like a softer light, so you don't look like you're in a dungeon or in a basement, and it looks of higher quality. Now, is that like a deal breaker? Obviously not. No, you can come in and you can have content or your videos look however you want, and you can still get that engagement. I just think it elevates it, and it's a little bit more attention grabbing. While we're talking about attention grabbing, y'all gonna get all the things right now because I'm on a nice little commute, and so I feel like sharing. While we're talking about the attention grabbing, when y'all do these thumbnails, like, it's great that you get the clip of whatever the video was, but you can get a little creative, get a little graphics person to zhuzh it up a bit, kind of look at what's trending. I'm not saying you got to do all the neon signs and all the big bold font necessarily, but just get things that grab the attention. Again, that's just part of how you can meet not only the current generation, but the future generations where they are that will become small businesses, right? It is, I can say, sometimes discouraging to hear the same content over and over again with no action, I think that's a miss too. There's oftentimes no real call to action. Yes, you can send out the recording, which is great because some people, everybody's in a different journey when it comes to small business and doing contract government work. But I feel like there's an opportunity to bite-size the education for these small businesses to allow them to not only meet them where they are, but move on to that next step. So I don't know, you guys, I hope that some of it is taken with a point of consideration and maybe some thought. I definitely think that as small businesses also, there's an opportunity to leverage social media. I do know a few agencies that does LinkedIn really well from an SES standpoint, and they reshare a lot of events that are going on, things that they've participated or spoken in. I've seen that been executed really well. I wish more agencies would find even if they're data analysts or analysts, like find the individuals that could help shine light on what the agency is doing. And it's not always necessarily a conference, right? It could be things that are BTS or behind the scenes or, a day in the life of or something like that. Maybe you follow a bunch of interns around, or maybe you have an opportunity to have, a new hire orientation, and you can kind of capture what that looks like. Because that not only reaches the small business community, but it also reaches your numbers for job opportunities and openings that you have within your agency. It helps to grow that pipeline also. And maybe entertain video resumes. I think that would be dope. It just gives you a chance to learn the person a little bit more. You can see them as a personality versus just a piece of black and white paper. It's just really embracing other modalities of reaching the community, small business, and potential job searchers as well, where they are, aside from USA Jobs, right? So food for thought. I think I started this out by saying this was for the small business divisions within the various agencies, but I think some of this also can apply to the agencies at large and how they approach not only their social media strategy, but content across the board when it comes to digital platforms. There is room for improvement and open discussion. So I would be happy to continue the conversation if that is something that you would like to entertain, for sure. So I usually on these episodes give homework. So I'll give homework because that's what I like to do, Bold Move Bestie, even in the government space. The homework for you is look at your social platforms. Does it look dry and drab? Do you get real interaction, or do you just get, I'll say the people who just like to be seen, and I'll leave it at that. Are you getting real engagement and having an opportunity to engage with the small business community at the level that you're looking for, or are you just checking a box on your annual review? So until next time, I catch you on the next episode of She Built Success. Bye.